really looking forward to this conversation, and it's a very topical one. It's very relevant about the future of business networking, and delighted that James and Kelly can join us. And we will be discussing, what does the future of networking look like? It could spark a lot of debate, but what we do want today from this conversation is in the chat box, in the Q&A area on the right-hand side, to share your views, to ask us questions about what we think networking looks like. So I'm going to introduce James and Kelly onto the screen with me. So just come through to you, James, and then there's one to Kelly. Good morning, James.
Morning, Bradley. All right.
Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning.
Great. Well, I'm delighted you guys can join us today, and there's a handful of only members with us today as well, which is great. But for the sake of a lot of Network My Club members, I'd just like a quick introduction and a very quick story as to the only story. So over to one of you guys just for that.
I'm going to let James
go on, Kelly. I said it first.
You did say it first. Yeah, I'll try and be quick. I'm so passionate about this. Just shut me up, Bradley, if I go on too much. So James and I met at networking. So we're husband and wife, not brother and sister. We met 6 years ago. Somebody asked me just now, that's why, James, that's why I say that. We met at a spin-off of BNI, actually, a group called Poddy. We both love networking, and we both went for very different reasons at that time. I went because I wanted to further my business. I wanted business connections, referrals. James was there for more personal support, having a group community around him. So we rolled that forward sort of 6 years. We decided we were in a lot of different meetings, a lot of different networking groups, but we weren't quite getting what we felt was important to us, and that was the relationship from the support from the community. So we set up Only back in January 2018, roll that forward to where we are now. We are taking it nationally and hopefully internationally soon. So for us, we bill ourselves as the network for people who like people. If you don't like people and you don't want to find out about people, don't come and see us.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, great. That's a very quick overview, and we'll make sure that people can find out the full story with links to your website. But I want to move this into the conversation, and the reason I've invited you guys along today, and it's the future of networking. And the reason for inviting you guys is not that we get along well and we're going to be collaborating down the line, but you guys have made the big decision as a business to go mainly online for the future, with face-to-face complementing your online. James, perhaps if you could just give the rationale behind that and what that was like making that decision and how that went down with your members. So, because for context, you guys were very much face-to-face with online alongside it even before COVID, but now you're purely online. So how was that to make that decision, and what was your rationale?
So thank you, Bradley. We were quite lucky. We called it Only Virtual back then, and we realized, well, it is a real thing, isn't it? Why are we calling it virtual? But we'd been running that for 18 months prior to lockdown. So we got used to the nuances of doing online networking as opposed to face-to-face networking. But yes, you're absolutely right. Kelly in particular loves her fancy venues, Four Seasons, Shooting Glen, stuff like that. And it was very much part of our story. We thought, if you can go networking, why not go somewhere nice as opposed to the soggy bacon sandwich idea? When we went into lockdown, we were able to pivot very quickly, just shift the meetings online. I think the difference with us, a lot of networking groups thought, this is a stopgap. We'll just chuck it on Zoom. We'll do it on Zoom for a little while, for a couple of months until we get back to normal. Too late, world's changed. And I think the announcement this week really vindicated the fact that we have to get better at online networking. We have to stop thinking it as just it'll do for now. So bringing it up to speed, it was probably about a month ago, we made the decision to say, this is crazy. Let's just flip this model on its head slightly. We led with face-to-face networking, supported by online networking. Turn it around. So move all the meetings online. We've got about 18 now, I think, running, and a few new ones starting. Online meetings are the core proposition. Then we'll support them with face-to-face events, only experiences as we've branded it, as and when we thought we'd have some by the end of the year. Announcement this week, groups of 6 or more cannot meet, therefore that's not happening. So yes, we can say, oh, aren't we clever, prescient way of looking at the situation? I think what we've got to accept that, well, we just got to get better at online networking. It's just networking at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm sure that's given you a lot of peace of mind, because you, like I, probably asked every day, when are you going back to face? When's that returning? And until you can't control that kind of thing. So you've taken that into your own hands and made that decision, which, is a big call on the face of it, but it's not really, because, as you say, I think virtual online networking will be here for a while, and people have to adopt it. How did that go down with your members? I'm sure you have, very much like our membership, two groups of people, some that are desperate to get back to face, some that like the online, some that are happy with both. What was that like? I'll come to you, Kelly. What was the response from your members?
Well, we've got a few here. They might disagree with me. They'll probably put it in the chat if they do. On the whole, I would say 85% of members were happy. And I think that is partly because we're very community based. Our members know each other really well, and they're very like-minded. We've spent a long time, thanks to Ben Drury, who is here today, working on our culture and articulating what it is we believe in. And as a result of that, we attract like-minded people. So we do have a handful of members who are still very much not attending a Zoom meeting. I'm happy to continue my membership, but I'm not going to come back until you return to face. They're slowly trickling back in, and they're giving the Zoom a go. But there certainly are still a few members that don't want to enter this world. They're not ready to do that just yet. But no, on the whole, I think it's taking that limbo away from people. We've made the decision, and they've gone, oh, phew, okay, well, I know what's happening. So if I want to be part of this is the way I've got to do it going forward. And actually, we've attracted so many more new members because we've been quite definitive in our approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of the longer term view on networking, I personally believe there will be that hybrid approach, that blended approach to networking, and online can, tick a box when it comes to going to those events and meeting lots of new people and building that connection. And face-to-face will be that continually building that relationship side of things. So what are your views? And this, I'll pick out a question we've already got in the Q&A. James, what do you think the future of networking holds when it comes to that balance of face-to-face and online?
I think you've got to remember that online networking, this is version 1 of this stuff, isn't it? We're all learning how this works, how to do it effectively. Strip it back to the core principle. What is networking? It's the ability to get to speak to people, to build your connections, build relationships. Done. I think what you've got to do is adapt the way that you do that. If you're a person whose approach to networking always was, I just like people. I just want to get to know people. I like to know what their lives are like. I like to understand what their challenges are. You're fine, because you can do that online, and we can still meet each other and have the one-to-ones and back it up. We very much see the only experiences will be, do you know what, we've done the formal bit online. Let's just get together and make it more of a social activity. The people that don't like it, and I am paraphrasing or being generalizing slightly, the people that don't like it are the kind of more hunter networkers that want to go in, hold the room. The people that sell at you, hate it. Because do you know what? In person, it was really difficult, wasn't it? Because we've all been in a networking room with someone that just stands there and pitches at us. And we're all going, how can I get away? Who can I grab onto? Who can I get away from? Online, you don't have to get away. You just don't listen to them. We sit at a lot of Zoom meetings, and you can see when certain people are speaking, you can see it. No one's watching, they're typing, they're not looking. There's no way into it. And I think people really struggle with that if that's their approach. So you've got to adapt networking. If you're just doing it for marketing purposes, you've got to either adapt or you've got to find a different way to market, because it doesn't work online. Yeah. That's what I think we'll find people move their approach slightly, but it won't appeal to everyone. And our decision was very much, we'd like to please our members. We'd like to please the people that we've got, but we can't. We can't give you that physical experience face-to-face that you want. And by the way, no one can. So we'll just make the online bit better. Why don't we go and find the people that can't go to physical events? Why don't we go to the people that love the fact that, well, actually, I'm meeting people from a much broader geographical area than I ever used to be. And I'm saving a lot of time, and I'm not having as many one-to-ones where I'm driving 2 hours up the road. That's the future, isn't it? We've got to adapt.
Yeah, you've got to look at the bigger picture in terms of when you're networking, that follow-up approach needs to be slightly different. And if you've met someone online, then's your cue to perhaps arrange another call or another meeting, and it's down to you to adapt that method. This is where the whole process of networking, the whole strategy to it can be reframed and reimagined almost. So, when it comes to online, we spoke before about, and I think everyone in the room will agree that even though the principles of networking remain the same, whether it's online or in person, what is the approach to online networking, and how does that need to differ from in person? And I'll pick out a question from Lara Squires, and it's a general question about your top tip to networking. But when it comes to online, what is your tip? What would you advise the approach to be? And I'll come to you, Kelly, on that.
I think we've touched on this in a couple of the rooms we're talking about. Just be yourself. We talking to people this morning I've never met before. It can be daunting, but I think just go with an open mind and listen. If you're going to book onto an event, engage in the event. Don't be tempted to open your email and reply to a message. We've all done it, of course we have, but it's a short space of time. And if you want to get the best from it, be engaged. Be present, be part of it. Talk to people you wouldn't normally talk to. I literally just clicked on a space. I didn't look to see who was on the table. And I think be open-minded enough to talk to people that you wouldn't necessarily be drawn to, because actually in this space, you can do that so much easier. When you're in a face-to-face room, you'll cherry pick. We all naturally do it. You'll cherry pick who you're going to go and gravitate towards. Take yourself out of your comfort zone and but listen, actively listen to people, because you will get, Gary, we were talking earlier, and you are absolutely right. You're on my wavelength. Listen first, and the rest will follow, won't it?
You can only be speaking to Gary Morgan there, can't you? Yeah.
There you go.
What a man. Great. And then when sort of coming back to that point of you guys shifting to online, I'm sure there was many conversations you were having where you were almost trying to convince people, that online does work, and you were probably going, well, why am I wasting my energy trying to convince someone? What do you now say to people that perhaps go, online networking doesn't work and it's not effective? That perhaps are those types of people that go to one in-person networking event, don't get any leads or sales from it, and then go, networking doesn't work for me. What do you say from an online perspective? James, I'll ask you, what would your response be to that?
It is no different from when we did face-to-face networking, isn't it? We always say networking isn't a formal networking event. Networking is something that you've just got to get good at day to day. LinkedIn's a perfect example, isn't it? Too many people still look at LinkedIn, they think it's a marketing tool. It's not. It's a networking tool. How many times have you had the message from someone going, oh, great to connect with you, and then 10 paragraphs about what they sell? You don't even know. We get this all the time, particularly from people that build websites. We even do that. Why are you wasting your time? Because like Kelly said, you're starting with the proposition, not the listening. Whereas on the flip side, I've had people that have approached me through LinkedIn, or have made a connection, and I've had a conversation with them, and they've ended up, either I've worked with them or they've ended up part of the network. The principle of understanding what networking is, that it isn't just somewhere to rock up and go, there's me, there's my poster, off you go. And by the way, that goes to the same, I made the point earlier about when you're on an online networking meeting, if you're not listening, people do notice, because basically what you're saying there is that, look, I've come here to say my piece, don't really care what you lot are saying, I'm just going to get on with it. I'm not particularly going to feel like I want to speak to you anymore. So make sure, we always say, we produce the attendee sheet like you do, connect with people after the meeting. That's when you start to build the relationships. This forum, this formal networking, this is just the icebreaker. You've got to put the work in to get the benefit from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Bradley, just to jump in there, but I think we've given up trying to tell people the benefits of it.
Yeah.
But we don't have to sell it. And ironically, they tend to come round of their own accord anyway. We've certainly had one member who some of you will know, he did actually go public with this. I won't name him, but he quite openly didn't want to be part of it. He was one of our hosts, and he said, look, not for me. I want face-to-face. Very quickly came back and put a post out on LinkedIn and said, I made a massive mistake and I'm back in and I'm back on board. So I think, we don't want to force anybody to do anything, but in our opinion, this is definitely the way forward.
Yeah, and also as a membership organisation, it only takes one bad egg, as it were, to break that culture that you guys value, that we at Network My Club value, and that's part of our, not just part of the conversation when people are inquiring about membership and saying this is how we expect people to behave, but also part of that onboarding process and saying, look, if you're thinking about coming to an event and selling, you won't get anything from it. So there's no point in you being with us. And what we don't want is someone coming into joining the network, spending 2 or 3 months going, well, I've come to some events and I haven't got any sales. And it's, well, and then they're disappointed. So we try and go from the outset saying, if that's your approach, you're not going to get anything from it. And this sort of leads me into the next point around, we've got a really good, we share a view on networking and the principles, which is why we're collaborating on things in the future, and we will do. And Lara Squires again asked a question which has been voted up to the top, that about, is there an ideal number of groups to be a member of in your opinion? And we're in a nice line of work where a lot of our members are also members of other organizations, and some may view this as being, well, there's 2 competitors on the screen here, why are they doing that? But we're both very confident in our model, in our approach, that, you know, a lot of our members may look at Only and go, yeah, I want to be part of that. Same vice versa. So what is your approach? What is your view on that in terms of how many groups people should be part of? How should they view that when it comes to going for perhaps quality rather than quantity? Kelly?
It's a brilliant question, Lara. In all honesty, I think you can be a part of too many networks, but you should definitely be a member of more than one. I think every networking group is great. They offer different things. You know, we say we're the network for people who like people. Network My Club, your big events, lots of people in a room. BNI is a referral system. So it depends. We've all got our own characteristics, and I think probably to be deeply involved in 2 is great, in so much as you put your all in, you're really, you know, thinking about the network, you're constantly trying to think of connections, or if it's a referral network, referrals. I think you can spread yourself too thin. So if you're going to be a member of more than 2 networks, you do have to prioritize in some way, purely because, okay, if I'm saying I need help with my roof and you're a member of 10 networks and you know 10 roofers, who are you going to give to me? So I think it's down to the individual and of course personal choice, but as much as you can hold, I would say go for it. But to be heavily involved in more than 2 networks, I think is probably too much. What you don't want to be doing is kind of guest speaking at this network on Monday, that one on Thursday, this one. And where there is a benefit there as well, you do kind of lay yourself a bit thin, in my opinion. I don't know, James, do you agree with that?
I think you've got to get away from this volume idea that I've got to put myself in X amount of people, in front of X amount of people before I get the benefit. I talk about something called networking guess who, Bradley, and you'll know what this means as I describe it, that you can tell the people that are going to be an issue because they contact us before and they say, who's going to be at the meeting, or which one's going to benefit me the most to go to? And my response in a more diplomatic way is, how could I possibly answer that question? Because I don't know, what you necessarily are looking for, but I also don't know everything about every person in that room. So when I talk about networking guess who, you know, there's one of our attendee sheet. You get people that do the thing where they're going, okay, oh, that person they sell something to do with jewelry. Well, they're not interested to be clack. And they start clacking down the tiles of who's going to help them based upon their job title. But you don't know what else that person does. You don't know who they're married to. Some of people that run, well, I'll give a great example. Kate Bickford's one of our members. She's a Forever Living. There are a lot of networking groups won't entertain Forever Living because it's network marketing. Kate is one of the greatest networkers you will ever meet. She meets people while walking the dog, and she is massively connected. If you need to get in touch with someone, Kate will know someone that knows someone. Never write anyone off. You don't need volume. It is the quality approach. The answer to that question is as much you can commit fairly to each group. If you can put something in, great. If you're just turning up to fill the numbers and to tick a box, a lot of people also don't track. What do you actually get from networking? Because you sometimes say people go, well, I didn't get anything. And then when they look back, you know, if they've got a spreadsheet or they just spend some time thinking, they go, actually, well, I met that person who pointed me to that person. They don't track it through. You've got to approach it like any kind of business and track it.
Yeah, we talk a lot with our members in the onboarding process. We ask the question, what's your objective? And some will say it is raising the profile, it's new business, it's new partner referrals, whatever it may be. We try and define that from the outset, and then we can almost work with them to help achieve that. And I think that's a general tip that I share with people, is know why you're going in the room, and then you can sort of work backwards or work forwards almost from there, to set some goals and ultimately set some expectations on your part. Couple more questions before we go. Louise Grant's asked, and this one for you guys, and I'll pick up for one from Benjamin Drury. So Louise has asked you guys, how will the international networking work for you?
Well, we've already sort of experienced this, because when we first launched Only Virtual, we had members in the US, Dubai, Spain. We had lots of we've got international clients, so we got them all involved. It's not going to work for the handyman. Of course it's not. It's not going to work for the car seller that's based in Portsmouth, because you're not going to want to network with those people particularly. But if you are digital service product, you're selling something, of course, it's another customer at the end of the day. And there is, we've got a couple of South African members at the moment through another collaboration we've done from the chamber out there. And yes, at this moment in time, I can't give anything to them. But Ben, who's here, I think he did a speaking event for them, because he was open-minded enough to get involved, have a one-to-one with them and talk to them. So I think if you're a coach, if you're a web designer, marketing, it doesn't matter where we live anymore, does it? The world is a very small place. So it's just another network of people. Getting over the culture barrier is something. But again, if you're open-minded enough, you're willing to go through that process, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a real balance between not thinking too big a picture and going, right, we've got the world at our feet. And I know you guys still have your localized events across Hampshire, Dorset, and even further up north now. But yeah, it's that balance between going, we could invite all these people from across the world, but is it going to benefit our members more than doing localized ones? And that's something that we've sort of tried to balance at the moment, because there is interest now in Network My Club from areas that were nearby we were already working in, but perhaps people weren't willing to drive for 3 hours there and back. So it's a real balance, isn't it? Sorry, James, I interrupted there.
And that is a great point, isn't it? And there's such an opportunity here, Bradley. And this is why it's good that we're collaborating, because I don't think necessarily about the people that currently do networking, because they get it, and everyone's got their own take on it. How many people don't network? How many people find it impenetrable? How many people find it cliquey as an outsider? You think about what's going on now. How many new businesses are setting up that would really benefit from networking? Not just referrals, support, camaraderie, friendships, all of those things, those intangibles that are as valuable. What can we do to attract those people? Well, I tell you what you don't do is set up as a clique that seems like I can't be part of it. So the more that we collaborate, the better. Internationally will come. We have got plans. We will roll out in markets around the world. We absolutely want to do that. The opportunity for us now, and I say us as everyone in this room, is to extend the reach of networking in your local area. Because what we identified, as Kelly said, when we set up Only Virtual, we thought, great, we've got a client in New York, we've got clients overseas, we're going to be trading with all those people, is it going to be cool? What we actually found in reality was that our members in Four Seasons, which is in the north of Hampshire, would never meet the ones that go to Poole, because it's an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. It pulled those people together. And that's where you start to realize that networking in its old incarnation, what's your radius? 30 miles? If you're lucky. I'd say that's probably too much. 30 minutes would probably be top. So that's, rather than looking at what we've lost, let's look at what we've gained. Let's look at the opportunity that we've all got now to extend our networks. If we're good at networking and we're interested in people, you are in the right place, in the right time, right now.
Yeah, for sure. And look forward to working with you guys on that journey. It's very similar sort of visions that we've got with Network My Club. And I'll pick up the last question from Benjamin Drury. He's asked, when will we be back in physical room? Will that ever happen to the extent it was before? Well, you know, it's the crystal ball that I don't have. And the question that I get asked about 10 times a day, yes, we will return to in-person. We're very much going back to in-person alongside online. We'd be silly not to. But when we're doing that, who knows? So, you know, we're probably looking at early next year where we're opening up events, but things change by the day. And it was only this week with the news that, you know, I'm sure you guys were going, we've made the right decision based on the new lockdown restrictions. And we as a team went, that's fine, because we've got a really good model online that members are enjoying. And I think, you know, it's really, we have to take the guidance seriously. And as an organizer, and I'm sure you guys will agree, I don't want the responsibility of perhaps running an event and then such and such happens. So yeah, it's a very difficult one to manage. But I thought I would address that, as I'm sure that's a question on everyone's lips. But guys, we're more or less out of time now, so I do have to wrap the Q&A up here. But do stick around and do stay in the room for as long as you're able to. But really appreciate you guys joining us today. We'll send out details about Only. We'll tell our members to keep your eyes peeled. We will be collaborating with James and Kelly with some dual events down the line. So yeah, we look forward to doing that. And thanks again, James and Kelly. Thank you.